And if things stay the way they are today, 2 of the 32 jobs in the NFL are inhabited by African Americans.
Which is crazy.
So I'll throw this to you. Coming out of 2020 and all the things we saw and all of the calls for movement and some of the legitimate movement that we saw in across the pro sports world, I think that everybody, and I know you're not outside of this group, very many people looked at the NFL and said, you're doing just enough to get by. Let's see you step up when it really counts. Well, now is finally that time. And not only are they not stepping up, they're falling back.
Not surprised. I mean, to be honest with you, I tend to not be surprised by anybody sort of falling back. The NFL, and that's part of the reason why I made that comment about the Rams in particular, reminded me of like McKinsey or Accenture, stuff like that, consultancy firms that just happens to be a football team. McVay was, Sean McVay, offensive genius and all that stuff. Obviously, white coaches always get the label of being a genius, right? Offensive geniuses. That's always been the case. But it's been interesting that like the guys that get plucked are guys who never really ran a full unit as a coordinator and all that, right? Mm-hmm. And the guys have been plucked out of the Rams over the last couple of years are more or less, it's like I'm here for the job. I'm going to go somewhere else. I worked under this guy who was supposed to be a genius who went to the Super Bowl, and let's see if that genius rubs off of me, right? And that's always been the case. Like, let's see if this genius rubs off of me in some ways. That's why you talk about the coaching trees the way we do. But it's been very interesting to see the last couple of years, the guys who've ascended, the guys who've not been, not all, obviously, but Joe Judge here in the metropolitan area, taking over for the Giants. He was never a coordinator here in the NFL. Eric Bieniemy, they say, people have debated if he actually ran the offense or not. And the truth is, no. He ran that offense to a plumb. Obviously, with Andy Reid, he's learned from that tree as well. But it's like that guy still can't get an opportunity. And it's been really frustrating to see these different coaches getting plucked out of nowhere. Like I think it was a New Orleans tight ends coach just got hired for one of these jobs. Like
the assistant head coach for New Orleans, it's Dan Campbell. Just got the Lions job last night.
And listen, Dan Campbell he was in the league as a player for a while. He's a respected tight end and all of the stuff. So I'm sure that he's going to get some attention. He's going to bring a lot more respectability than Matt Patricia did. I'm not even disputing what he can do. But it's been interesting where I think maybe because he got the associate head coach or assistant head coach label, that probably made up for the lack of coordinator title. And I'm very interested in sort of seeing like if that's what's going to happen, if that's what some of these black aspiring head coaches, future head coaches are going to have to do. If they have to say, well, I'm not going to be a coordinator, I'm going to be an assistant, and then go for this other title or whatever else in order to show that I have the mentality. Like, do they have to play with their resumes a little bit more? You know what I mean? Like,
here's the
play
problem,
with the labels
though.
a little bit. That's just killing me right now about what's happening. It's like you're now skipping guys who've had years, who have resumes, who have the respect of their, not just their peers, but the respect of the players that they're working with, and who have ascended on those trees. And you're even overlooking that now? Like, that's insane.
So here's the big problem I have. And this is going to be around Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy has been, by and far, maybe with the exception of Urban Meyer, the biggest name that has been around any of the coaching jobs that have landed this year. Robert Saleh made his name last year, helping the 49ers get to the Super Bowl. Has certainly shown what he can do with that unit. Had some shining moments for that unit this year while it was drastically undermanned. I mean, he has certainly earned his way up the pathway that's there. Arthur Smith in Tennessee, showed that, he could turn around a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. And one thing that we know in the NFL that will always get you another job is being able to show that you can get the most out of the quarterback position. That will always get you a job because it's the biggest investment. And it certainly draws the line towards where the success is at. If you look at the teams that are in the conference championships this upcoming weekend, look at the position. It ain't running backs that got them there. It is Aaron Rodgers. It is Pat Mahomes. It is Josh Allen. It is Tom Brady. That is the difference between the fortunes of all of those franchises. However, you have Brandon Staley, who had a great year as DC with the Rams, staying in town, moving over to the Chargers. That's fine. But what more does Eric Bieniemy have to do? And beyond that point, why is the conversation just around Eric Bieniemy? It's not like he's the only African American coach who could be qualified to make such a jump. The
I think,
defense in Tampa is led by Todd Bowles. They won that game last night.
and he should have a chance. And to that point, Todd Bowles has earned a chance to get a second chance, and that's the other thing too, right? But I think the reason why the conversations around Bieniemy as much as it has been is because this goes to, you mentioned the importance of a quarterback, right? Well, this goes to the history of the black athlete in the NFL, where you weren't thought of to be smart enough to be a part of an offense outside of being a receiver or a running back, right? So you weren't smart enough to be a quarterback. Okay, well, we proved that we could be smart enough to be quarterbacks. Well, are you smart enough to be an offensive coach? And I think that's the hurdle right now. Most of the black head coaches in the history of the NFL have had a defensive background. It's been very rare that you've seen a black coach with an offensive background, and that's why it's centered around Bieniemy as much as it is. I mean, look, in a couple of years, the conversation could be around Byron Leftwich, right? Byron Leftwich, former NFL quarterback, offensive coordinator with Tampa Bay right now. He could be the next guy that gets some sort of conversation, right? That he may be the next Bieniemy, right? We don't know. And it's for the fact that we've been stuck with looking at black coaches from a defensive point of view and never really giving that offensive shot. And so the conversation is going to be, hey, listen, this is the best way we can prove our equality, which is right here. The places where you thought we weren't smart enough to be, where we're dominating here too. And listen, Bieniemy and Reid have helped make Patrick Mahomes give him the biggest contract in sports history. I think that should say a lot to what Bieniemy can actually do.
Yeah, it goes into the thing where I say that the talent of the quarterback should never be assumed to just purely be the reason that the quarterback has success. That's not Patrick Mahomes. Right. Patrick Mahomes has an innate abilities to do things that just few people ever born can do at quarterback. But he also landed in a pretty nice position with Andy Reid being there, and also with Eric Bieniemy, who was underrated until people started looking at what Pat Mahomes could do.
Let's not forget, I was gonna say real quick, let's not forget, you can't forget the impact of Alex Smith. The tutelage of Alex Smith for that, for the brief period of time they were together. Smith had been there, done that. He was able to learn from that a little bit more too. So that definitely helped.
Makes a difference. I want to go back to one thing that you said there real quick before we turn out of this conversation. Leslie Frazier in Buffalo. He's going to be coaching in the AFC Championship game this weekend. Mm-hmm. What's his title? I'm going to tell it to you. It was a rhetorical. Right. It's assistant head coach. Yeah. So if that's the qualifier, and that's somebody who's helping one of these teams go on one of the runs it's on right now, a guy that's been in the seat before and has earned his way back into that conversation, then prove it. There's 2 teams left on the board that can do it. I heard that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be looking at inviting Josh McDaniels to come to town, who could be a guy who is like, all right, now if I'm going to do it, it's time, because I might not get another call. But there's
listen, oh God, I'm sorry. The McDaniels thing is frustrating because it's like he's really going to get another call, especially after backing out of Indianapolis. At this point, like, there's 32 head coaching jobs. You actually had the job and you said no.
Like, but this goes back into the inequity thing. But he got a call again. He got a call again this year after seeing what that offense was, and you took all the bells and whistles out of it. There was nothing impressive about that offense this year. There was nothing special about that Broncos offense when he was over it. There was nothing special about that Rams offense when he was over it either. But he gets the call, and just happens that a couple of hours ago, the Texans finally said that they're interviewing Eric Bieniemy today.
Yeah, because they got that to me is a PR thing with the Texans. I'm sorry. I don't think anybody really believes that.
That's a PR thing, but all things being said equal, there's still the NFL dropped the ball in a major way in an offseason that, to me, it looks like at the very most, we're going to be staying in place with black leadership in the sport.
They're staying in place in general. This is what they are. This is what they do. This is honestly the case of most sports leagues. They want to show something for PR purposes. They don't want to get pillared, but then, give it a few months, it'll go back to normal. That's what they do.
So while we're talking about diversity moments here, one thing that I do want to hit on real quick, I think this is a bigger conversation, and it's one that we most certainly will have to open up the books for in a wider sense at some point down the road. Major League Baseball, however, is not striking out with diversity. At a time when the game is still underserved with African-American players, the ones that are there are doing everything possible that they can to make sure that their presence is felt, not just on the field, but in the community as well. I think that, Doug Glanville, ex-MLB outfielder, spent some time on ESPN adding a lot of insight there to the game. Dropped a really, really great look into the duality of what it means to be a African American looking at the coaching ranks in Major League Baseball today, but also seeing that the value for him at this time right now is more towards serving home and what it means to be a Black man, both in and out of the sport. It's a piece that I really would encourage a lot of people to look at, but I also would encourage a lot of people to look at the duality and the presence that African Americans are taking in baseball right now. Because I feel like while we're still looking to get the numbers up in that sport, that I don't know if I can ever recall a time where the responsibility has been held up to a higher standard than it is right now to lead and to be visible by African Americans in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I read the piece as well from Glanville. First of all, I mean, I've always appreciated Glanville's insights. You know, he's somebody who, you know, he's always been, obviously, you know,